Why doesn't your evening tea make you fall asleep? Most people forget one simple detail that can turn an ordinary infusion into a true natural sedative. I'm Dr. Ana Esperanza, a phytotherapy specialist with over 15 years of experience. And today, I'll reveal the secret that makes all the difference when it comes to calming the mind and easing anxiety. Today you'll discover how to use the right ingredients to finally sleep deeply, like a child, without depending on medication. Write in the comments right now, "I want the deep sleep tea." Stay with me until the end, because this forgotten detail can turn sleepless nights into real rest. Have you ever noticed the almost unshakable trust people place in a simple evening tea? Thousands rely on it as if it were a magical key to shut down the mind, calm the heart, and surrender to deep sleep. But do you really know what happens inside your body when you drink that steaming cup before bed? Picture the scene. The house is silent. The soft kitchen light shines only on the kettle on the stove, and the steam rising from the hot water seems to carry the promise of peace. You add those seemingly ordinary ingredients, an orange peel, a few fennel seeds, a pinch of rosemary, and suddenly the air is transformed by a delicate fragrance, blending freshness, sweetness, and mystery. It's a ritual that looks innocent, but one that hides a power few truly understand. Modern science has only confirmed what generations before already suspected. Each of these ingredients contains molecules capable of interacting directly with the brain. Orange peel, for example, contains limonene, a natural substance that discreetly engages the same receptors targeted by many anti-anxiety medications. It's like a natural key that opens quiet doors in your mind, letting serenity flow in. But that's not all. Limonene also acts on the autonomic nervous system, helping regulate heart rate and blood pressure. Imagine your body as a car speeding on a dark road. Limonene works like a gentle brake, slowing things down until the engine steadies. That simple adjustment is enough for your mind to realize it's safe to rest now. Fennel, on the other hand, contains anethole, a compound that relaxes muscles, calms the stomach, and reduces those physical symptoms of anxiety that often flare up in the middle of the night. Palpitations, shallow breathing, restlessness. It's as if the body receives a clear message. Everything is fine. You can rest. Often, difficulty falling asleep doesn't come only from a racing mind, but also from tension held throughout the body. Anethole loosens those knots, one by one, until the whole organism is ready to surrender to sleep. And rosemary, that common kitchen herb, hides an unexpected strength. Within it lies rosmarinic acid, which not only fights inflammation, but also helps raise GABA levels in the brain, the neurotransmitter of calm and inner silence. When GABA is balanced, the mind can finally slow down, as if an invisible switch had been flipped. It's almost like hearing an entire city quiet down, lights turning off one by one, until only the comforting silence of the night remains. But rosemary doesn't stop there. Studies show it can also lower cortisol, the stress hormone. Have you ever lain in bed and felt as if your mind were more active than ever, even after an exhausting day? That's cortisol keeping the body on alert when it should be resting. Rosemary helps lower that unnecessary guard, signaling to the body, the danger is gone, you can rest. It also improves brain oxygenation, allowing sleep to be more restorative. It's not just about sleeping, it's about waking up truly renewed. All this may sound too simple, but that's where the mystery lies. If teas like this can have such a powerful effect on body and mind, why do so many people still struggle with insomnia? Why does it work for some and not for others? The answer begins to reveal itself when we realize it's not just the recipe that matters, but also how it's used. The human body doesn't respond only to what you consume, but also to when, where, and why you consume it. And this is exactly where most people go wrong. Many drink their tea too late, when the body is already on high alert from phones, TV, or a racing mind. Others think that simply filling a cup with any mix will bring miraculous results. And still others, even when they follow the recipe correctly, sabotage themselves with nightly habits that completely cancel out the effects of the ingredients. But here's the curious detail. Simply believing in the tea's power already triggers a shift inside. Studies show that expectation alone has measurable effects on the body. That means even if you don't prepare the recipe perfectly, your brain may start to slow down, just because it believes this ritual brings peace. It's the quiet power of the mind, added to the real strength of natural compounds. And maybe that's why so many people swear by grandma's tea as the ultimate sleep solution. It works, yes, but it only works up to a point. Because when blind faith takes over, when people think any tea will solve their insomnia, That's when problems begin. Now imagine this. You prepare your tea every night, religiously. You follow your ritual. Inhale the steam. Drink slowly. Close your eyes waiting for sleep to arrive. And most of the time, it works. But there are those nights when nothing seems enough. Your heart won't slow. Your mind won't quiet down. And the clock seems to mock you as it ticks on relentlessly. You ask yourself, what did I do wrong tonight? And the answer lies in a detail you most likely overlooked. That detail, forgotten by most, is what makes the difference between a night of deep rest and a sleepless dawn. It's what separates a simple infusion from a true natural sedative, and until it's uncovered, you'll stay trapped in that frustrating cycle of hope and disappointment. What's striking is that, over the years, I've seen hundreds of people make the exact same mistakes. It's almost as if there's an invisible pattern. Trust in the ritual, followed by the bitter surprise of a sleepless night. The tea is powerful, but it doesn't work miracles on its own. And those who grasp this begin to see there's a hidden secret in how it's used. A secret that could finally turn the key to deep sleep. Think of your body as a safe. The tea's ingredients are the keys, but there's a specific combination you must follow. Miss one number, and the door won't open. Sleep works the same way. The right recipe, at the right time, in the right environment. When everything aligns, the result is inevitable. The mind lets go, the body relaxes, and sleep comes as a gentle embrace. But as long as this detail is ignored, many will remain trapped in the cycle of frustration. That's why some swear tea is miraculous, while others say it's useless. The difference doesn't lie only in the ingredients, but in that quiet secret that separates an effective ritual from an empty habit. And here we must open the first door of this mystery. Because yes, the ingredients do work, science confirms it, but there's something beyond chemistry, beyond the recipe, a silent factor, working behind the scenes, that decides whether you'll sleep like a child or lie awake until dawn. But that trust may be hiding a detail almost everyone forgets. If tea has so much power, why then do so many people still complain of endless nights of insomnia? The answer doesn't lie only in the ingredients, but also in nearly invisible details that most people insist on overlooking. Small mistakes, repeated night after night, can completely sabotage the benefits of the drink. The first mistake is timing. Many people believe they can prepare tea at any time in the evening, even just minutes before bed. But the human body works in precise cycles, like an internal clock that regulates hormone release. After 6 p.m., the body naturally begins producing melatonin, preparing itself for sleep. If tea is consumed too late, around 11 p.m. or even after midnight, it arrives too late. The nervous system is already overloaded with stimuli, and melatonin, which should be rising, has been blocked by artificial lights and accumulated stress. At that point, tea becomes just another warm drink, unable to do what it was meant to. The second mistake is believing that more is better. It's common to find people who overdo the amount of ingredients or drink several cups in a row. But the active compounds in orange peel, fennel, and rosemary are effective specifically in small doses. Too much doesn't amplify the calming effect. On the contrary, it can cause stomach irritation, intestinal discomfort, and even paradoxical reactions that leave the mind more awake. Imagine listening to a soft melody meant to relax you. If you turn the volume up too high, what was once soothing becomes irritating. The same goes for the body. The right dose is what separates benefit from frustration. The third mistake, perhaps the trickiest, is combining tea with modern habits. Drinking tea while glued to a phone, TV, or computer is like trying to light a candle in a storm. The blue light from these devices tricks the brain into thinking it's still daytime. This crashes melatonin levels and completely cancels out the tea's effect. You can ingest the most powerful calming compounds, but if your mind is being bombarded by light and information, sleep won't come. Another often ignored detail is interaction with stimulants and medication. It's pointless to drink a calming tea if, a few hours earlier, you had coffee, an energy drink, or even a glass of alcohol thinking it would help you relax. All of these factors interfere with the nervous system, creating a chemical mess. Likewise, combining tea with certain medications without medical guidance can trigger unwanted effects. Many people think natural means harmless, but that's not true. Even nature demands respect. These mistakes may seem small, but repeated night after night, they build an invisible wall between you and deep sleep. And the most frustrating part is that most people don't even realize they're sabotaging themselves. They blame the tea, abandon the ritual, and turn to stronger solutions, falling into cycles of chemical dependence. To understand this better, let me tell you Marcelo's story. He was 42 years old and worked as an analyst in a tech company. His routine was heavy: long hours in front of a computer, stressful meetings, tight deadlines. By the time he finally got home, it was already late, and his mind was still racing as if he were still at the office. Sleep had become a constant challenge. Tired of relying on sleeping pills, Marcelo decided to try a natural alternative. A colleague recommended a tea that promised to calm the mind and induce sleep. He bought all the ingredients: orange peel, fennel, and rosemary. He set up his ritual. He prepared the infusion, breathed in the fragrant steam, drank it slowly, convinced that the cup carried with it the promise of rest. The first nights were encouraging. His body seemed to relax, his mind slowed down, and he fell asleep faster. But as days went by, something strange happened. The effect seemed to fade. Marcelo found himself awake again, tossing and turning in bed for hours, eyes open, mind restless. The clock ticked on, and his frustration grew. At work, the impact was devastating. He felt like a zombie, making simple mistakes, missing deadlines, snapping at coworkers over trivial things. His wife noticed too. The cheerful, patient man she knew was turning into someone tired, irritable, and constantly in a bad mood. One night, exhausted and frustrated, he admitted, "I don't get it. I'm doing everything right. I drink the tea every night. Why doesn't it work for me?" That's when his wife asked a simple question. "What time do you usually make the tea?" Marcelo had never thought about it. His ritual was almost always near midnight, after spending hours on his phone answering work emails or watching videos to distract himself. Only then did he remember the tea. When he finally drank it, he expected a miracle, but his body was already on high alert. Cortisol was high, his mind was agitated, and melatonin was blocked by the screen's light. Determined to try something different, Marcelo adjusted his schedule. He started making the tea between 7 and 8 p.m., right after dinner. He put his phone aside, turned off the TV, and created a softer atmosphere: dim lights, silence, and slow breathing. In the first few days, sleep came faster. After a week, the difference was dramatic. He not only slept better, but also woke up refreshed, with mental clarity he hadn't felt in years. The secret wasn't in the recipe. It was in the forgotten detail, the right timing, and the right environment. Stories like Marcelo's are far more common than you might think. How many people are trapped in the same situation today, believing tea doesn't work, when in reality the problem is the small mistakes? That frustration pushes many to abandon natural solutions and turn to strong medication, without realizing the answer was in their own hands. And here comes the most intriguing part. Even when tea does work, there's a fragile limit that must be respected. Cross that line, and the ally turns into an enemy. It's an almost invisible boundary, and most people don't even know it exists. But there is a secret limit that separates ally from enemy, and almost no one talks about it. We've now reached the most delicate part of this journey. So far, you've learned about the surprising benefits of tea and the common mistakes that can sabotage its effect. But there's a truth that few dare to admit. The same tea that can be your greatest ally against insomnia can also become a silent prison if it's used the wrong way. It's a fascinating contradiction. On one hand, you have a drink that warms, comforts, and activates natural mechanisms in the body, helping the mind slow down and sleep arrive faster. On the other, there's the risk that both body and mind will grow dependent on the ritual, creating the belief that without tea, it's impossible to sleep. And the line separating these two realities is far thinner than most imagine. Picture someone who discovers this tea and, in the first few nights, feels almost immediate relief. They sleep better, wake up renewed, and believe they've finally found the solution. Naturally, they repeat the ritual every night. But the brain, a master of associations, begins to link rest exclusively to the presence of the drink. Days later, if for some reason they don't manage to prepare the tea, anxiety spikes. The body might be able to rest, but the mind insists something is missing. The result? Insomnia. Not because of the absence of calming compounds, but because of the psychological weight of dependence. This phenomenon isn't unique to tea. We see it in people who can only sleep with music, in those who need a light on, or in those who can't relax without scrolling on their phone until they doze off. The brain ties rest to a specific trigger. Remove that trigger, and the whole system falters. That's why tea must be seen as an ally, not a crutch. There's also another rarely mentioned point: the impact of long-term use without balance. Rosemary, for example, contains compounds that in excess can irritate the stomach. Fennel, when consumed too heavily, can subtly affect hormonal balance. Orange peel, if prepared incorrectly, can lose its essential oils and become a drink with little effect. None of these risks are alarming, but they all serve as reminders of an important truth: even nature imposes limits. And it's not only the body that suffers from excess. The psychological side may be even more dangerous. When someone places all their hopes in a single solution, the weight of expectation becomes unbearable. If, for whatever reason, the tea doesn't work on a given night, the disappointment is crushing. A thought creeps in: if even this didn't work, nothing will. That belief acts like a sentence, fueling anxiety. And the more anxious you are, the harder it is to sleep. But don't take this as a warning against tea. On the contrary, it can be an invaluable tool, perhaps one of the most accessible and effective ones. The key is balance. Used with awareness, within a healthy routine, it acts as an amplifier. It enhances what you're already building: a dark, quiet room, a body that slows through deep breathing, a mind that understands it's time to switch off. Think of tea as a boat. It can take you to the other shore, where deep rest awaits. But if you overload it, if you insist on rowing against the current, it will sink. On the other hand, if you use it lightly, catching the favorable wind of good habits, it glides smoothly to its destination. Science backs this up. Studies show that people who pair tea with good sleep hygiene habits sleep more consistently than those who rely only on the drink. Tea is the spark that lights the fire, but the fire only burns if there's enough wood, and that wood is your nightly habits. And here's where the mystery deepens. Tea can be both an amplifier of good habits and a mask for bad ones. If you drink tea while staying glued to your phone, stressing late into the night, or neglecting your environment, you're only fooling yourself. In those conditions, tea is nothing more than a temporary illusion. But for those who see the ritual as part of something larger, it becomes an almost indispensable ally. Picture 3 different people. The first is a student who uses tea as a pause at the end of the day. She dims the lights, closes her books, prepares the infusion, and enjoys those minutes as a moment of disconnection. The result: her body gets the signal, and sleep comes naturally. The second is an exhausted worker who drinks tea but keeps scrolling on his phone until the last sip. The tea acts, but the blue light destroys melatonin. The result: frustration. The third is an elderly woman who has always prepared tea before bed, not as medicine but as tradition. For her, the ritual is as important as the chemistry, and that's why the effect remains stable over the years. These 3 examples show that there's no single answer. Tea can be a blessing or a curse, depending on the context. It's a double-edged sword, capable of opening the door to rest or creating a new prison. And perhaps the most curious part is realizing that this invisible line doesn't lie in the tea itself, but in you. In how you use it, in the meaning you give it, in the way you weave it into your life. The drink is just the beginning. The rest is your choice. That's why so many people spend their lives believing the solution is always external, in a pill, in a supplement, in a cup of tea. But the truth is that the power lies in aligning mind, body, and environment. Tea is a key. But what good is a key if you insist on keeping the door locked from the inside? And this brings us to the ultimate secret, the one almost no one dares to reveal. There's an invisible limit, a silent point that separates harmony from dependence. A moment when tea ceases to be a support and becomes a burden, a line so thin that most cross it without ever noticing. And it's exactly at that fragile boundary that the final secret lies, the one almost no one shares. We've reached the end of this journey, and it's time to reveal the secret that almost everyone forgets, the one that can completely transform your relationship with sleep. By now, you know that tea holds real power, confirmed by science. The natural compounds in orange peel, fennel, and rosemary can calm the mind, reduce anxiety, and prepare the body to rest. But the truth is, the secret isn't found only in the recipe. What separates a night of deep rest from a sleepless dawn are the choices you make around this ritual. The time you prepare your tea, the way you carry out your evening, the environment you create in your bedroom. All of these determine whether your tea will be just a warm drink or a true gateway to restorative sleep. Think about it. Tea is like a key. It has the ability to unlock the door to rest, but if you keep your mind lit up with screens, lights, and worries, that door stays closed. No matter how many times you turn the key, it won't open. But when you align your body, your mind, and your environment, something almost magical happens. The key turns smoothly, the door opens, and sleep arrives effortlessly. That's why so many people end up frustrated. They believe that drinking tea alone will solve all their problems, but they ignore the details that make all the difference. The result is disappointment. And it's usually at that point that many give up, convinced that nothing works. What they don't realize is that they were just one step away from discovering the true power of this ritual. Now you know. Tea works, but it must be respected. It should be consumed at the right time, in the right dose, and within a context that favors relaxation. It's not magic. It's science combined with awareness, and when used that way, it can indeed transform sleepless nights into deep rest. But there's one final detail, something that can completely change how you look at sleep. Tea should never be a crutch, but rather an ally. It isn't there to replace your natural ability to rest, but to enhance what already exists within you. When used wisely, it becomes a guide, a bridge between a restless mind and the serenity of the night. Remember, sleep isn't a luxury. It's a basic necessity. It's the time when your body repairs itself, your mind organizes memories, and your immune system strengthens. Every hour lost in the middle of the night comes with a cost, but every night well slept is an investment in health, mental clarity, and the energy to live fully. Today, you have everything you need: the recipe for the tea, knowledge of its ingredients, awareness of the most common mistakes, and above all, the revelation that the secret lies in the details. Now the decision is yours. You can keep ignoring these factors and repeat the cycle of frustration, or you can decide that tonight will mark the beginning of a new chapter in your life. Prepare your tea at the right time. Switch off your devices. Create the right environment. Breathe deeply, and allow your body to do what it does best. Rest. And before you go, I want you to do something simple. Write in the comments, "I want deep sleep." That phrase isn't just a comment. It's a commitment to yourself, a way of telling your body and mind that from today, you choose rest over anxiety. If this content resonated with you, give it a like, share it with someone who also needs this transformation, and subscribe to the channel. Together, we can spread the power of natural secrets that science confirms and tradition has known for centuries. The choice is in your hands. The tea is here, the knowledge too. All that's left is to put it into practice. May tonight be the first of many filled with deep, restorative, peaceful sleep. It's full.